Okay, episode 6, series 1. Edgar Wright here. I'm going to hand you over to
Jessica Hynes and A. Stevenson.
I am Simon Pegg, and we are joined by a new guest star, the reigning joint king of South Park, Dr. Matthew Stone.
Hey!
It'll be easy to know my voice since I'm the American.
Today's token American is Matt Stone.
Here you are.
Now here's was this song big here? Come on, Eileen.
Of course, yeah. This was a huge song for the whole world, man.
It was.
This was a big song. I mean, so I've been listening a little bit what you guys have been talking about. I got here a little bit ago and I listened to a little bit of Quentin's spinning in the room. And one thing I want to go back to is, did you guys talk about how the drugs and the drug use in this series, I always seriously, let's talk about drugs. Let's go in and talk about drugs. I remember the first clip I saw of Spaced was the one where and it's not in this episode, where the bike messenger comes in.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is what
It
it
is in this? Oh, okay, it is in this episode.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
The dealer.
That was the first bit I ever saw of Spaced, and I was like, what the fuck is this show? Like, how can you do that on TV? But not because it was gratuitous, but because it was like, kind of like, oh yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah.
And is that cool? Can you do that? And it is kind of amazing that, I mean, one of the cool things I like about the whole series is it has this real kind of weirdly honest version of drug use.
I remember he
We
was
were
kind of
kind of-
vaguely based on somebody I actually met. I met in Bath.
And Smiley as well, who played
And
the part.
Smiley, who played, but I met this man in Bath who had e-psychosis. He was very proud of the fact that he'd been diagnosed as the first person in the country to get e-psychosis.
Taking so much ecstasy.
Taking so much ecstasy that he was kind of on a loop, on like a 4-hour loop. And one of the things he used to do is go, "See you later," like that. Kind of, he used to kind of punctuate his speech. I'm waving my face, and I'm waving my hand in front of my face. It was kind of like a tick that he had. But that was it. I mean, if you sat with him for 4 hours, he would just start at the beginning again and then just go again and again and again, and that was it. Something to do with kind of something to do with his kind of nervous system.
Yeah, because it shuts it. But the thing is, we kind of just wanted it. We kind of touched on this earlier on, but it was just like a part of, particularly like just smoking weed. It was just like something that they did. It didn't need a kind of moral commentary on it. It was just like people do that and they don't suffer. They just do it. Do you know?
But did you get any like pressure from the network or anything? Like,
Not at all. Nobody got this. No one mentions E in this episode. No one. It's clear that everyone's on it in the club, but there's no picture of anyone taking it. There's no
It's like
reference
we've kind
to
of
it.
drawn the outline, but not actually kind of put the thing in. So you know what it is, except
Right.
you haven't actually said this is what we're doing.
smart.
I think as well, like
Smart.
Channel 4, the network who first showed South Park as well. They definitely got a reputation for being provocative, and it never. Once we got kind of told that we can only have one F word per show, and this is a show that went out at 9:30 on a Friday night, but nobody, to my knowledge, ever mentioned the drugs at all.
No.
It was never mentioned, never questioned. Nobody asked us to tone it down at all.
Was it one of those things that because like
I remember a producer early on actually asking me in the first episode of the first series that was I putting a lot of sugar in my tea because I was on heroin. I was like, no. I was like, no, I'm just putting sugar in my tea. What planet are you from? What drug planet are you from? It's like, what?
Was it purposeful? Was it purposeful, or was it just you didn't even know that was?
No, it was perfect. We kind of.
I mean, not that we do. Oh, you accidentally did, but like the idea that like when we did South Park, I think part of the reason like the language thing here was like a big thing, right? Even though now it seems so ancient. The idea that 10 years ago we could say those things on television. People were like, oh my God. And we were just like, oh, you can't say this on television?
Right.
We didn't even realize. Was it like that with the drug stuff?
I think so. It wasn't a concerted effort to really push boundaries. It kind of just happened, right?
Yeah, and also it was the desire to just show things kind of how they are. That you can go out, have a night like that, and come back and live to tell the tale.
And not
Do you know
die.
what I mean? Yeah, and also just because a lot of it's become. With this episode, particularly with the sort of the rave element that, like the show, a real sort of favourite because it depicted things just exactly how they were in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s.
Because strangely, actually earlier on we mentioned a TV show just earlier on called Grange Hill, which is a very long-running children's soap, and it'd be that strange thing in British TV that a lot of shows for kids would be the ones that dealt with drugs in a very special episode type thing, and there would be famously. Grange Hill had a whole, thing with a character called Zammo who took coke. Was it coke or heroin? Well, it was heroin. And they even had a tie-in single. The cast of Grange Hill did a tie-in single that went to number 1 called Just Say No. Just say no.
They were all
Can I
smoking
just
weed.
say at this point, the Scrabble point?
Go on.
Can I just bring this out?
What are we going to do? Jess is
Oh,
rummaging in
you
a...
got the Scrabble.
Oh my
You
God.
still have a Scrabble piece.
I
From
found
this
it
episode.
from the back of the sofa, and I kept it. Okay,
my
and it's
God.
here.
That's
How much
a-
that'd be
I wanna
worth
show
on
that
eBay?
around.
Jess is
Probably at
brandishing
least £3.50, I think.
piece,
Maybe
a
$3
Scrabble
or something.
tile from this
I'm not going
very
to sell it.
board.
I'm not going to sell it now. I'm not going to sell it.
We were saying you should frame it in a big
Huge
frame.
You could put it in one of those, movie memorabilia auctions along with
sad?
like Terminator's gun and all
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
shit.
sure.
Scarlett O'Hara's
That
dress.
way.
Daisy
Price.
Stoner's A. That sounds
Hang on,
weird.
whoa.
Sorry, hang on. Let me rephrase
okay.
that.
All right, Edgar. Whatever.
But it's one of those things that like this show. I mean,
But I think the whole drugs thing I was saying
Yeah.
is the whole drugs thing is if you're trying to kind of recreate a world, you're sort of trying to write about a world or an experience, and you want to kind of do it, truthfully. And obviously, when you're kind of in your late teens and early 20s and you're kind of renting and going out, I mean, people take drugs. I mean, they do.
Yeah.
I mean, not everybody does. Some
No,
people
you
don't.
have to give it to me.
You don't
I'm
have
just like-
to if you
yeah,
don't want to.
yeah.
It's not a pressure thing, but people do and they can do. And so having it as a sort of either peripheral, not necessarily intrinsic, but as a part of that world is absolutely natural because
Right.
that's what people do.
I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to go into. I think it actually is an extremely important part of the show because I think like the show like has so many all the pop culture references you guys have been talking about, and all the obvious like, okay, we're gonna do our little like Bad Boys, like our movie thing in here, but with like a couple living in a flat, and it's like, but the reason why the show it doesn't just to me spin off the rails is because you guys like your relationship seems actually it seems kind of real, in a cool way, and I think heard Quentin talk about that too. Is like you guys is like. If it didn't have that, it would just start kind of falling through your fingers a little bit.
Yeah.
And
then
the
it would
drug
just be
use
like
makes it actually not drug use like you're druggies, but you're just real people who sometimes get drunk and then are hungover or kiss somebody or like regular people do. It makes that part so real that then the other stuff doesn't like fly off into the.
Yeah, it kind of. I suppose it kind of because it does fly off into flights of fancy.
Right.
Things like that kind of keep it anchored to. Because a lot of people often say, "Oh, it was quite real space," but in actual fact, it really is kind of. Particularly the second series goes crazy. But it keeps itself anchored to reality by being like that about stuff like smoking a spliff or whatever. It's kind of.
I'm so jealous, but I'm so jealous. I guess I'm so jealous that you could do. It's great, It's like, and in American television, that would be a huge deal, It'd be like
because people feel the need to kind of they feel the need to comment on it like we can't have this issue unless it's an issue. Yeah.
What are you saying?
What is exactly.
What do you mean to say with this thing? He wants to get high. Why does he want to get high? Because it's fucking fun, and he's bummed out, and he wants to get high.
But shouldn't he die afterwards?
So is he going to get run over by a truck, or what's going to happen to him?
Here's a question: like,
my one kind of regret is not having a mushrooms moment.
A mushrooms episode.
A shrooms moment, that could have been quite special. That could have been the third series.
That's the-
That could be your Christmas special.
We could have written.
You guys could
the third series
still
on
do a
shrooms.
Christmas special.
That would've been
Mushrooms
good.
Christmas special.
Yeah,
Shrooms
Christmas
Christmas special.
we could do an entire third season where they're on ketamine, but they never move
That would
from
never
the
get
sofa.
written. That would
Just
never
stuck.
happen. We'd imagine we'd written the whole series, but we'd just
Space.
be still in the
Yes,
same place,
K-hole.
lying there drooling.
Spaced in the K-hole.
So how did you guys in this ecstasy episode where you didn't ever mention ecstasy? How did you get the performances so perfect with the?
We
ecstasy?
shot it at like 8:30 in the morning, and honestly, as we were doing a full day shoot, so it wasn't like we could do an easy rider and really get hammered.
get
or whatever.
into it,
We just made sure we hit all the notes, so people who've been
Have
through
you ever
that.
heard the commentary on Easy Rider?
No.
Like Dennis Hopper, it's just like Dennis Hopper just basically trying to sort of say that it was all him. It's just
Oh, really?
funny, yeah. That was
Anyway,
what
did
he
I
was
ra-
saying with-
there was
It was
real
all
acting?
him. It's all him. No, everything's him. It's like Peter Fonda is kind of he was kind of in it, but it's me. It's me.
Yeah,
it was
it's
me.
all me.
The whole
It's
thing
all
was
me.
me. It's my idea.
just
That
me.
thing me.
That's the William Friedkin rule of commentaries is the sentence that you think is going to have like a complimentary wrap up where he goes on French Connection. He'll say, "I never thought Gene Hackman was right for the part."
The end.
End. He doesn't say. But of course, he went on to win the Academy Award. He just like, no, that's it. No,
And I stand by that.
I stand by that now. 40 years on. But the thing, I think I'd like to say that I directed this episode at the time. I'd never taken
On heroin?
ecstasy. I'd never had ecstasy.
I
when
never
directed.
have either,
Have you?
probably. I guess.
I have since.
Oh, great, that'll be all over the
Oh,
papers.
no, that
Oh,
ruins
great.
it.
Thanks.
Edgar Wright, E-head.
Shocker!
E is for Edgar.
No, I never took ecstasy before, but when I edited the show, I took ecstasy
To make it work.
to make it work.
Well, I've been a big club. Me and Jess have both been, active on the club scene. That sounds weird. Are you active on the club
We've
scene?
been extremely active on the club
membership.
scene. Simon in particular.
That sounds like a euphemism
I
for
love
sort
to go
of like
clubbing.
STDs or something. Are you? She's active
Your
on the club
membership
scene.
is lapsing, sir. Get some more ecstasy in there.
The great thing about it is that one thing we really wanted to do was show it like how it was, and the kind of all the rituals that you went through and the kind of the silliness of what you did in that situation. And I remember we heard from Fatboy Slim and the Chemical Brothers that they would watch this episode of this show before they went out DJing on a Friday night. And I went to the Big Beach Boutique, which was Fatboy Slim DJ to 250,000 people in Brighton.
He didn't mean to. He actually was supposed to be only 10,000.
I know. It was incredible. But he played the Commisera track that we use in this, and someone came, and it was blaring out across Brighton Beach. Boo, 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 boo. Everyone was going fucking mental, and someone came up and said, he's playing this for Spaced. And it was one of the proudest moments of my life.
Excellent.
It was great.
It's excellent. Well, this episode, when I watch it, it makes it, because I have partaken in my life in several of the illicits, and
So
it
euphemistic.
makes me feel like there's something about, like, I
gives
get
you a
little acid
like a buzz.
flashback, like weird little, like, my fingers start to
remember,
tingle, like I'm supposed to be there.
1988 was the point in England, because in America it was 1985. It was kind of like the powder, and it was all very pure. And then in 1988, that was when it that was like the summer of love. And I was slightly too young, but my older sister, kind of, that was her summer of love, and I was just a little bit too young to kind of get
first
that.
wave.
Are you saying
So
that your sister was active in the club scene?
She certainly was active in the club scene, Edgar. I should say, certainly through the summer of '88. Anyway,
She was proactive.
She was proactive.
Very active.
But yeah, I mean, the whole kind of idea that suddenly, that was all part of your kind of going out experience. It was sort of music, and it was drugs, and the two things kind of came together. No, not necessarily. I mean, I kind of sort of very kind of rapidly realised that I had a very fragile brain, that it is a very fragile piece of equipment. So, I mean, I, on occasion, actually, always having done, drugs, or certainly experimented, realised that I was much better off just drinking Coca-Cola in that situation.
Right.
You used to go to that Metalheads club, didn't you, and
I
drink
used
Coke?
to go to Metalheads
Drink Pepsi.
alone to dance to drum and bass. But that was very non-druggy. It wasn't a druggy place, because the music, you can't dance to drum and bass on ecstasy. It's just impossible.
I want to clarify my position on my drug use. I experimented too. I just experimented.
Yeah, sure.
As a lot of people do.
Sure
and
you
I
did.
didn't get fucked out of my head. I just experimented.
Yeah, sure. But I remember kind of being quite sober, actually being completely drug free, but kind of just getting into the whole thing, just dancing and loving it, and finding that was kind of good enough. You just feel that the energy is so great, in a club, kind of, and everyone's kind of peaking, and I was kind of talking to this guy who was clearly out of his head, and I was kind of just really on his vibe, and we were kind of like talking. He was like, "What have you taken?" And I was like,
What are you on?
"Nothing.
What are you on?
I
What are
haven't
you
taken
on?"
anything." And he sort of backed away from me like I was a complete nutcase.
Like you were
he
weird.
suddenly became extremely scared of me.
I think there is a thing actually with both. I think there's a really nice thing with Space with both series is that which I haven't really seen in too many other shows, especially about kind of like the age group that it's about. But a lot of episodes start with people being hungover and dishevelled.
Right.
And there's a nice thing both with Tim and Daisy that a lot of episodes start with one of them coming into the room with a raging headache.
Yeah.
And it's kind of just a nice thing. It's never kind of like, and there's not a lot of comedy made out. Occasionally we make jokes about how being drunk the previous night, but it's not like a big thing. It's just accepted that, like, of that age group, you're kind of drunk every night and you're kind of always hungover, and Daisy's hungover and sort of this walking out of like sort of but it's, I don't know, it's kind of I was
Yeah, but it's not like moral, but it's like was it Die Hard 2? He was hungover in the movie. When did he start Die Hard 2?
Die Hard 3.
Die Hard 3. Yeah,
that's right.
Die Hard 3. Sorry.
Die Hard
Some of
with a
Die Hard shit. But it does, like, it doesn't. Yeah, that's why, like, I'm just keep going back to that the way drugs and booze are portrayed in Space is always, I'm always like, because it's not moralized. It's not a good or a bad. It just is an is.
It's because it wasn't
It's
a
fucking
great.
It
Like,
kind of
and
wasn't
it's-
about
It's
it, I
just an
suppose. It wasn't
Yeah.
like it wasn't the key issue in the show. It was just something that happened to be part of the show.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But anyone like the scene when Tim and Daisy on the chair in the club, which is coming up when they're just anyone who's been through that kind of high when every fucking thing they say is brilliant and every idea they have is just like, oh, this is the answer to everything. And then the next day you think, oh, fucking hell, what am I talking about? But that really summed that experience up,
Now, is there a precedent, like in American TV, you have those things like the very special episodes where somebody might have a drugs problem. But in like network comedies, would there be things where people are kind of like stoned, or you have a comedy scene where somebody's stoned and then it's like grass is a bad thing?
I don't know on network TV.
They made a few tentative references towards weed in Friends a couple of times, mainly in cookie form, but
but they're very
tentative. But
even like a show like Cheers didn't have a lot of drunk people in it,
right?
No, when you think that's
like, did you a fucking bar in Boston? There's fucking assholes every night getting drunk and beating people up. It's just like, but to do anything more than have that glass of apple juice, and the occasional, I need a drink, like that's it. It was, and maybe somebody bearing that was very, very underutilized first of all, that there's some funny shit and people getting fucked up. That's just, there is. But like it really, I mean, because we've had, and now we can pretty much do whatever we want in South Park, but we had some things where they were, we were like, want to do a joke where someone's, you'd cut and they'd be smoking a joint. I can't remember it. And it was like, well, you can't show it actually, you can't show him actually smoking. And it was all these crazy things. Like, it wasn't even what the show was about. It's just a joke. He smokes pot. People do it. Like, whatever,
That's the weird thing. It's kind of like denial,
strange.
isn't it? It's like trying to pretend that people don't even smoke fucking cigarettes, these days. Yeah. You're not allowed to show that.
You can't even show that in a movie.
No.
By the way, that's fucked. That's a whole nother fuck thing.
That's an automatic R rating for smoking.
They want to do this, yeah. So it's like, what's amazing is Hollywood has been arguing for years and years and years. And by the way, like, I'm kind of agree with this, that like, well, we can show all this guns and shit because movies are like, it doesn't affect people's behavior. They've tried to like draw that line to keep the government off their back, right? People, if people, if kids have sex, it doesn't, people don't take the behavior. And then now they've given in on the cigarettes and saying, well, if they smoke, they'll start, kids will start smoking. It's like, you can't give in on that principle, because once you do, to me, the whole thing starts falling apart. All your past, like.
But if you feel that sort of self-expression, in whatever form is about kind of exploring a truth of your situation, of your perception, that is somehow policed, kind of legally, it's kind of limiting.
It's weird.
How can you not show people do smoke?
People smoke, yeah. And then now it's like, so is he a bad guy? No, he's just a regular guy. But then it gets away from the whole, instead of commenting on it, like you guys just used it as I keep coming back to Spaces. You guys used it just as a grounding, a place of like a common experience.
Yeah. I gotta say,
you can go fucking crazy.
That said, like this was made in 1999, second series 2001. If we did the show today, they would not let us smoke on British
cigarettes.
TV. Yeah.
Or even definitely not weed.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think that has changed since the time we made the show. That would be. I think if we didn't have that talk then, but we would definitely have that talk now, because there was an overall government ruling of like people on TV not to smoke.
See, so I'm not crazy.
No, it's happening.
You guys did slip through the fucking.
Yeah. I think we just got in under the radar at the right time. But I think now it would be different.
I think this entire show got under the radar in that there was no way this show would get made these days now at Channel 4 without a pilot. We never did a pilot. We just went straight to series. There is no way this show would get made now. And that's not to say that Channel 4's reactionary in any way.
Apart from the fact that whole room is filled with like unpaid extras.
I know. It's like fucking union regulations out
From
the
the
window.
dance school round the corner.
Yes,
I mean,
absolutely.
Did this? Okay, so you guys probably already covered this earlier, but did this? Because I actually wondered this. When you pitched the show, how much more did the show become than when you pitched? Like, it seems to me like a show that, like, once you got on set and you started doing stuff, it actually became much bigger in breadth
definitely.
and width and whatever. Yeah. So did you pitch more of a standard sitcom?
No. We pitched
a single
Tim
camera,
Bisley, kind of baggy, trouser wearing skater boy writing comic. Daisy is kind of a weird freak. Who wants to be a writer?
Yeah. All the genesis was there, wasn't it? All the seeds were there.
The whole setup, it was all there. And the fact was, there was a commissioning editor. I don't know, he was he was an executive. Humphrey Barkley.
Oh, Humphrey, yeah.
Who had brought Desmond's to Britain. He really pioneered this kind of
which is like a Caribbean,
African Caribbean sort of guys. He was sort of British Caribbean guys sitcom. He was like a stand-up comedian, and he was really into bringing things to the television that kind of people otherwise wouldn't necessarily see. He was unusual in that way.
But
He read it
to describe,
and he
to explain
and he
one
said,
of these references.
but basically he read it and he said, I don't understand any of it. I absolutely love it. I think you should write a series.
He's the one that nearly fired
That's what
Edgar.
he actually said. And
Now
he's unusual.
This
you know.
here, just as a hiatus from this conversation, Wilfred Bramble, for the American listeners, was the guy that played your equivalent of Sanford in Sanford and Son in what we had was called Steptoe and Son. And Wilfred Bramble was a very kind of rubber-faced old man that Smiley looks just like in that freeze frame.
Exactly.
So that's what that refers to.
And
Jessica, sorry.
later you see sort of like Brian becomes Brian Kent, and Brian Kent was
A children's television
a children's television presenter. But there was weirdly I think there was moments with the pitching of Spaced where the executives didn't even though they liked the script, they didn't really know how it could be made, because there was discussion at one point.
With you, we just knew exactly how it was going to be made.
But maybe before we'd had those conversations, I remember one of the executives suggesting it was shot in front of a studio audience.
Which was just ridiculous.
Which was
we had that conversation.
in the round,
In the round. That was the weirdest
In the
thing.
round?
Yeah,
I know. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay,
Like
that's pretty
Spaced
sweet.
in the round.
Just to be able to say that in a meeting is pretty great. I think it should be on ice.
But this is exactly the thing. Was that sort of like one of the executives said maybe we should do something really funky, like doing it in the round at Brixton Academy.
You know what?
How does that work?
You know what TV executives do? They get something like that, like let's do it on ice, or let's do it in the round.
Yeah.
And then they say it in 50 meetings. I've got some weird idea, and then if it doesn't work, they go, I know, I'm just being weird. I'm just crazy, you know. I'm on ice.
I'm out there.
And then they say the next meeting, and so maybe it sticks. I don't know.
This is a real moment. This is a real for anyone that's the clubbing thing. That kind of this whole thing of like unconditional, sudden, universal love. You know, the idea that if you spilt someone's drink and this kind of became the wrap up for the whole episode, was that it went from an era when everyone was drunk and you did anything and you got punched, to if you did the same thing to a person, they would laugh and cuddle you.
Yeah, and give you a hug.
Yeah.
There was a thing with this, and it happened in the second series as well, where I don't know if you have this in the States, where the epilepsy test, where like something can fail, and it was since Pokemon. There was like sort of kids watching Pokemon in like sort of Japan who had epileptic fits. Ever since then, there was like a doctor that regulates the number of cuts and the number of different colours in those cuts, and you have to put it through this machine, and it can fail on the number of like quick cuts.
Wait, is it in
lights.
Japan or in England?
In England. And this episode failed, and we had to kind of like soften it in
Really?
the online.
Strobes and cuts and stuff.
Too much strobing.
It's like that thing in The Simpsons when they're watching that Japanese cartoon and their eyes go all big and they fall over.
Yeah, no, that happened with this episode. We had to slightly tinker with it, kind of in the online, to flatten it out.
That reminds me, there's a funny Cheers reference in The Simpsons as well, when Norm, or one of the characters, does exactly that, like smashes a glass on the bar and goes, "I'll kill you all! I'll kill you all!" Because he's like an alcoholic, which is what never happened in that show.
It never happened.
No.
Maybe it happened. I didn't watch every episode of Cheers, I have to admit.
Yeah.
I'm going to blow our own trumpet quickly to say this is the most euphoric moment like of everybody dancing to Mike, is it? I love this. This was so sweet doing this bit with these extras, because the extras really got into it, which doesn't always happen.
No, that can be a disaster, especially unpaid extras.
Yeah,
you can't even pull the paid.
But weirdly, they were better. They were better than the.
Hey, you fuckers! All right, I'm not.
The paid extras were like, they all came with like really crap costumes. Like they were like, it was like a sort of approximation of, but the real extras were so much better because they were just real people.
It's fantastic.
That's what's the name behind
the researcher, Amy.
Yeah, Amy. Yeah, she.
We did a thing of like changing all the names to club names at the end here, which is always nice. Of just kind of doing.
But it was interesting because Human Traffic came out sort of simultaneously, didn't it?
Yeah.
And there was, I can't remember whether it came out sort of immediately afterwards or at the same time.
I think it was around the same time.
We'd sort of decided to do that freeze frame thing, and they'd done it. They decided to do that as well, but it wasn't like we were kind of copying them. It just kind of happened simultaneously. It was weird.
I love that thing of them all.
Do you remember when we were like that? We could not stop laughing. Do you remember? We absolutely.
Naira, the producer, all of us actually are now on our IMDb pages where it says "also known as," and it lists our little club names.
Club names.
Can't get rid of them. Edgar Wright
list mine.
How many takes did it take to get this? Because we actually couldn't contain it.
Nick's such a funny boy.
Here we are, episode 5, second series. Edgar Wright here again with
Jessica Hynes, no Stevenson,
Simon Pegg, and
the token American, Matt Stone.
Hey!
it's my second show.
Yeah.
I'm a little more warmed up this time.
Here we are in Camden Town, a lovely part of North London. If you ever get to England, go to Camden. Well, it's gone a bit corporate nowadays, actually. It burnt down recently.
There was a big fire there, right?
Massive fire, yeah. In fact, not a million miles away from where we shoot the bar scene. Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny story about Camden, actually, which links back to the fire. I was walking through Camden just after the second series came out, and I was walking up the back steps towards the car park, and this girl ran up to me, and she was manning one of the stalls there, and she ran up and said, Simon, and said she was a real big fan of the show, and that was all quite new at that point, and it was really sweet, and she was very nice. And but she was really nuts and really sort of like enthusiastic, and I said goodbye to her. And then about 4 or 5 years later, she came up to me again at like an event, and it was Amy Winehouse. Before she got famous, she was
Nice.
working on a stall in Camden.
You could have got her off the drugs.
Let's not get back to that.
I didn't know I said the drugs.
The drugs.
V-E-R. The drugs.
That was at the she was at Jules Holland's show, and thoroughly lovely person.
I have to say that this, and I'm sure maybe you guys agree, this is my favourite episode of both series.
Me too.
And
There's something about this one where all the planets came into alignment.
Yeah.
There's some great shit in this episode. I really like this one.
The interesting thing about this, and you can, but Matt maybe doesn't know the story, but Simon and Jess had written all the scripts for the second series, and in a lot of the other episodes, and in the original episode 5, is that Tim and Daisy were split up, and then these guys wrote an episode where the whole thing was about the boys and girls are separated. And it really felt like, and it was the one time that I actually said, because I was kind of script editing with you guys, said, I don't think this one, it wasn't that the script wasn't good, but I sort of said,
the idea that there's I wanted to do a thing, a kind of really stark thing about the kind of a male-female thing, which was about kind of, I don't know, it was just sort of self-indulgent probably, but it was the idea that there's a power cut, and then when there's a power cut, then you suddenly realise what the roles are. It's the idea that the kind of boys build a pyre, and in the garden, and we're kind of suddenly reduced to our kind of caveman stroke woman
So
natures, because there's no technology anymore, which is kind of what makes us all equal to some degree, or at least defines us as sort of genderless, because in the wild, men are men. That was the idea. Anyway,
except for me.
So except for you,
Except for me.
I'm a lady.
if you were in the wild, you'd be looking for a man, would you, to come and save you?
I'm just waiting for the power to go out.
But what kind of happened was, even though it was a good episode, is that all of the other episodes had kind of contrived to split Tim and Daisy off, and I kind of remember saying to you guys, I think we really need to have like an episode where Tim and Daisy go on an adventure together.
Right.
And the thing was that then you guys went off and wrote this episode really quickly.
Simon had given me a film to watch,
Run
After Hours. No,
After
it
Hours.
wasn't Run Lola Run. It was After Hours.
Right.
The whole idea with the kind of the key motif throughout the whole thing. So that was the starting point, wasn't it? And then it was just like,
we wrote it in a cafe. We didn't even write it in our office.
We wrote it for about half an hour. We went and had some bacon.
I love the part where you guys go down the street.
Bacon and eggs.
You guys go down the street and you argue about, I want to do this tonight.
Yeah.
And I want to do this tonight. And the way and then you go out and you show all that, and it's really, I love that.
It's like one version's like how Daisy sees things, and the other's like how. So Tim's is like a comic book, and hers is like a photo montage.
Yeah.
But it's also the best version of it.
Yeah.
But the way you do it too is like really stylized, but in a really cool way.
The photos bit, the Tim and Daisy's version of the night out.
Yeah, how was those?
That was the first thing that we did in the second series.
Yeah.
That was the first thing that we did. We went out with a camera, just the three of us, right?
Excellent.
Yeah, because you're in it on the train, aren't you? Yeah.
I think maybe there was one other person who was with us. Maybe it was Karen or Oscar. I
think it was Karen.
Karen. But there was just the four of us went out and got kind of hammered and took all the photos.
We were in that. We were in that gay bar in Soho, weren't we? And
we went into that gay bar. We went into that blues club.
Yeah.
Remember, we went into that blues club as well, where we had to play the kind of the.
It's excellent.
And we went on the tube as well.
Part's excellent too, with a fake gunfight. Man, I love that too.
And I think we appropriated Kevin's the Fatty Boom Batty. We got that as a direct rip from Kevin Smith.
So wait, can I tell the quick story when we met? Do you remember when we? I know we've talked about it. I don't know if we have.
It was.
I don't know if you remember, but it was
the
a
Team America DVD launch.
Yeah, I remember
DVD
that.
launch,
We were
right?
in the fucking booth, and there's like, what's the name was next to us?
Avril Lavigne.
Avril Lavigne.
Yeah, it was an odd mix of people. It was us. Trey was there, and Avril Lavigne.
And my wife and my wife's friend Chris, that was like, he'd come down from Scotland and had this amazing night out with you guys and like with Avril Lavigne's retinue of fucking huge bodyguards.
Yeah, and a bunch of bodyguards. But so we had been over to I'd been to London for the launch of like the movie premiere when it came out in theaters, and we'd done a bunch of press. And doing press on a movie called Team America right after the Iraq War started, it's like not the easiest thing in the world to do, and like we put ourselves in that position, so it's kind of our fault. But so I'd basically spent weeks and then come back here, and then gone back for the DVD release, and now done a bunch more interviews, basically defending America, just because I felt like, man, okay, we're not all warmongers, or we're not, I'd just been kind of saying that over and over, and just being cool, trying to be a good ambassador for my people, And so we go to this party, and who do you want to invite? And I said, invite the Space guys, the Shaun of the Dead guys. We'd love to meet them, right? And so you guys came down, it was so cool. And then one of our friends is this guy, Eric Stow, who's the animation director on South Park. And he was getting really drunk. And I think I was talking to you, and I just met you, and I think it was with your girlfriend at the time was there. And Eric fucking did something to me, and I was, when you're drunk, he's like, shut up, get the fuck out of here. I'm talking to Eric. And we're trying to talk to be cool, right, to these guys. And he did something, and he made me fall off the end of this couch. And when you fall and you just kind of reach out and you grab whatever. I grabbed, I think your girlfriend at the time, just her leg, and kind of like to keep from falling. And I felt so embarrassed. I just saw red, and I chased him. I started fucking beating him, right? And there was a doorway in this club, and I fucking took and forcefully ripped his shirt, and threw him out. Did you? Yeah, and the bouncer, maybe you guys didn't see it, the bouncer threw us out. And so now I'm just out in this hallway. And there's like this huge, 500 people in this big event. I never knew that happened. So I kind of got myself back in there, but I was just so embarrassed because I was like,
you needn't have
I am a fucking asshole warmonger, bellicose. I've never get in a fight. What am I doing? It's all drunk, all amped up, I was so like, God, I'm an asshole.
That's so funny.
I do remember I don't remember seeing the fight, but it was like one of those things where somebody disappears from shot very fast. If something you suddenly you would something had happened and you just went.
And then there were some bodyguards who thought, oh, somebody attacked Matt, and it was like, no, I attacked my friend because he was making me mad. But it was like a full-on fight. Oh, it was so lame.
That's hysterical.
It was so weird.
I wish I'd known that had happened.
Well, I shouldn't have told you shit.
You were so concerned with how we thought about you beat someone up.
I have to
this
say
whole time,
well,
this changes our whole relationship. I figured you guys thought I'd just beat that
now
guy.
We think of you as a thug. Can somebody get Matt removed from the studio, please?
Oh, remember in this bit
that
here,
part's great right there where you guys come out of the fake shooting. Yep, ready to go? Yep. Ready.
Yeah, and I like
in the background they're watching. We did the you hear on the TV some kind of voiceover for they're watching Saved by the Bell. But we did some dialogue of what was it sort of? Hey, in Bizarro World College building. Yeah, you just hear this kind of dialogue vaguely. This is the first thing that we did for the second series.
But that was Rudy, who was our art director.
I'm in this bit. Oh yeah, Rudy was the absolute bollocks. I'm in this bit somewhere.
That was a reference to the tendency for West End plays to have hard-hitting titles.
Yeah.
Bar Italia,
to prove
24-hour Soho Cafe.
I've been there.
There I am.
There's Edgar.
Looking just like that. Oh, there he is. Oh, with a beard. Was that you with the beard?
That was me with the beard and the glasses.
Excellent.
I was in
This whole sequence is so excellent.
This was drawn by Jason.
Jason Brazil, yeah.
So good. I just love the energy of this. I've watched this a couple times. Just this whole sequence, because it's also this sounds really cheesy, but pragmatically such a cheap way to do it.
Absolutely.
It's and then then you go to the tequila poppers next. It's like, fuck, that's smart. It has so much energy, but it's actually really
because you get your cake
cheap.
And eat it, because you get to see that, and then of course the first thing you see is who's won the bet because
you guys are high.
Because we're high.
Right here. This is a great cut.
Yeah.
Boom. I love this.
Bang.
Your bit at the end of this shot, Jessica, is mental.
It's great.
You look like Animal from the Muppets at the end. You did an amazing leap
Funnily
into
enough,
camera.
that's exactly
Right
what
here.
I was going for.
And I like your Elvis coming up too. It's good.
This is something Jess did as a kid, right?
Well, I did at UCI. I used to do. Obviously, everybody loves Elvis. Everybody, when they were 5, looked at the album covers and gazed at him and learned all the songs. And obviously, I was like everybody else. And I actually did. I sung the song for you, didn't I? Teddy Bear song for you. What was it? It was when we were doing a sketch show. It was a long time before we did Space.
You told me you used to do it when you were a kid and you used to sing it for me in the office.
We
I
should
used to do
also
the impression.
Oh yeah,
for
Monkey.
American viewers, explain Monkey, because you guys don't know Monkey over here, do you?
What's that?
Monkey was a Japanese show.
It was a Japanese show based on the Wu Chen-en's book.
Or Chinese, maybe.
No, it was Japanese made because all the actors would, because it was like Masaki. They had Japanese names, but it was based on the Chinese book Monkey about the monkey god, and it was like a serialized version. Lots of kung fu, fighting with sticks.
Really extended introductory sequence at the beginning of every series.
But this is what kids show.
Yeah. And Monkey
it had
kind
a
of flies in on a cloud,
famous disco theme tune called Monkey Magic.
Yeah.
Monkey
like,
magic.
The opening couplet.
Monkey magic. Oh.
There's sort of like the best opening couplet of any theme tune ever. It goes, born from an egg on a mountain top. Monkey was funky who never stopped.
Holy shit! See, I had no idea about that.
Oh, God
It's
bless
an amazing
Marguerite.
show.
It's brilliant.
So that.
But he
there
had,
are
a,
a
he
lot
had
of
a
like.
thing around his head. He had that's why I go because the priest would pray and make it squash his head.
I
Sorry,
thought you were just
carry
being
on.
funny in English.
New. No can do.
But there's a lot of like, okay, so for American audiences, this is commentaries for the American release.
Yep.
There's a lot of American movie and TV references in space. Like it's not.
Yeah.
It's all
I mean,
American.
obviously some of the
Everything-
dialogue and
everything
Jaffa
is
cakes
American.
and shit like that.
That's
we were
what we
just talking
grew
about.
up on, I suppose.
We love American television. I mean,
Right.
that's it. That's what we grew
And
up on.
film.
That's what we love.
And also, I
film.
think that there's
So
kind
if they
of
were to do an American version of this show, making full British references,
Can you imagine?
let's say if they were to
I
do
can't
it.
imagine
Can
that.
you imagine an
I can't
American
imagine
version of
that.
this show?
I can't imagine. Hey, that's never going to happen.
Edgar's crying right now.
Anyway,
But it is a lot. But the big references, the references you need to know to have your feet on the ground with
Yeah.
this show are American. There are a lot of
It's all
American
American.
movies.
You know, I
But
think there's an aspirational quality to it in a way. Is that there's something kind of charming about like people in North London, like Brits in North London, recreating bits from like American genre films, and it's the kind of culture that we aspire to, whether it be TV
it's our
and films and video games.
Also, in that way, the show is very much about being British and growing up in the shadow of a.
Hey, it's not
culturally
about being
more-
British, Simon. It's about being young.
of a better.
Yeah.
No, of a sort of almost
Right.
psychotically prolific
No,
cultural
it's
country.
there's no way you can avoid it. I
No,
assume,
and it's like
growing up there.
America for us growing up. I mean, I remember thinking about the way I thought about America as a kid was this amazing
No one
place where
takes
all
drugs.
these things happen. Star Wars
No one
happened
takes
there.
drugs, yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
It's just like
and it
Happy
was,
Days.
Yeah, but it was like it
Yeah,
was
it was
this
just
kind
like
of
Happy Days.
It was this magical place where all
Magical.
this amazing, all the best toys were there, all the best films came from there, all the best everything, and it was like, and you did carry on with that as you grew up because we are such consumers of your culture. You know, a lot of our programming is American, and we love it. You know.
No, but seeing that spit back out through this filter, I actually think that American audiences could totally. I was kind of like, of all the British shows to get to America, to, you know what I mean? Like The Office got on here, obviously.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
not very many, because there's, for whatever reason, Americans don't really like, in mass, don't like
Foreigners.
British, foreigners,
Yeah.
other people. I always thought space is really accessible. I really have always thought
I think
that.
because I think the fact is the target audience for Spaced, which was that very specific, culturally aware, maybe comic book reading, but sort of, but someone who's quite savvy. That's a global condition.
Right.
And Spaced, the reason this is coming out here on DVD is because even though it was never released here, it's found an audience here by people just seeking it out.
Yeah.
It started out going under the table at comic conventions. Then with the internet, people found it, and it does appeal. It isn't exclusive.
Like you mentioned League of Gentlemen.
Yeah.
That's one that is a little bit esoteric.
Maybe
Like,
too parochial.
That's pretty like, oh, okay. I mean, I can understand why that didn't for me, even though I love that show. I think it's brilliant.
On a
Like,
larger
I can
level.
understand it. I love Peter Serafinowicz too.
Yeah.
He's so
There's
good in
one
this.
Recurring
reference
as
that's
well.
worth kind of explaining very quickly because it is a catalyst and it just happened in that scene. Is explaining that it's too orangey for crows. Kiora reference.
Right. You can get if you go on YouTube, you can punch in Kia Ora, you'll find a commercial that we had in the
orangey for crows.
exactly which we had in the UK in the 70s, and everybody fucking remembers it. Everybody, and that's why Tim references it there. But you can do some research, go on YouTube, look up Kiora, and you'll find that
How do you
commercial.
spell Kiora?
It's Kiaora.
Ah, good. Okay.
And it's like a little. It's actually fairly sort of
Orangey for crows.
what you might consider now
My dog.
faintly dubious racial representations,
much
really.
better.
Well, yours is much better. Sorry.
It was like a little black kid, and then like a big
a
mama.
crow.
It was slightly like now
Very
you'd be a
dubious.
little bit dubious, But and then they tried to release it as a single, and it never worked.
It was much. It was the it was the kind of like the orange juice version of Coonskin. It was that kind of similar.
Yeah,
stuff,
similar
like-
kind of old time representation
I
of.
guess so.
See,
other
for me, like
people.
watching.
I'm liking the way Coonskin's kind of featured in this DVD commentary come out of the blue.
There's probably no DVD commentary for Coonskin. So we're
Yeah,
getting
I don't
to
think there is a
good-
DVD for it. I
Hey,
think it's-
look! Now we all said we'd avoid doing fart gags, but
Excellent.
There's a good
Why?
one.
Who
It's a
said
good one.
that? I
So
never said
good.
that. You might have thought that. I never
So
agreed
good.
to that.
And you just leave him.
I like the fact you waft up in his face.
Do
Wafting
I?
your
Oh.
miasmic stench into his nose.
That's very good.
Now this is Pete doing his lines from the Phantom Menace in a different context.
Yeah.
So he actually gets this. This is exactly the dialogue he
Oh,
says.
is that right? I
Yeah.
didn't see
He goes,
that.
"At last I will emerge as the victor. At last I will have revenge."
That's
Oh,
that.
that's excellent. That's excellent. I never knew that.
And the lighting was red on his face, so he'd
Yeah.
look a bit like Darth Maul.
Have you guys talked about what a piece of shit the three
Oh.
new Star Wars? Have you guys talked about that? Has that come up? I bet that's probably
never.
come up.
Maybe
Yeah.
we should talk
Jessica
about
is the
that.
apologist in the room.
It's like the biggest fucking douching of all time. Like just a
know.
setup
I just
and you
think you want me
just
to get over
fucking
it. Get over
just
it.
whiffing.
It was
on
like
you
your
know.
own father farting in your face. Squatting over you and farting into your mouth.
That's a very vivid image.
That's
Thanks,
exactly what it felt like. It is. I think
And
I'd ra-
every
A
3
little-
years.
I would
a little
trade that if I could have
flashback to
3 more
Simon's
good Star
childhood.
Wars.
I'd go through that. There's Philip Seymour Hoffman in one of his earlier roles.
To retroactively ruin great movies is not just make a bad one.
Oh.
Because like Matrix 2 fucking that sucked.
Yeah.
Matrix 3 sucked, but I still like Matrix 1 still is an amazing movie.
Yeah,
I,
you can
it
still
doesn't
watch it.
I know it doesn't the stink doesn't like
You got
rub
to
off.
block it out, but yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
but the Star Wars it bums me out on it actually just bums me out on the whole thing. It does.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sick of like
It was,
I'm
and
gonna-
also it was kind of infallible before that, and then suddenly it became. I found it quite therapeutic because I remember when I was a kid, like defending Star Wars in the playground when, say, the Black Hole came out, and then suddenly you get like kids that will go, "No, Black Hole's better than Star Wars," and you'd be, "No, it's fucking not. Star Wars is the best. I don't care if ET took more money. I don't care." And then suddenly to be able to say, "Okay, Star Wars is shit," it actually
Yeah.
felt quite good.
yeah, liberating.
Yeah.
I can let go of that.
Thank Christ.
Well, I thought it was. I think it's all good.
Yeah, we
and
know
actually,
what
if
you
you
think.
watch it all together, it's. I mean, you know, obviously there's difference. It's different stylistically. It's different from the classic trilogy, but at the same time, it tells the story in a different way. I mean, in many ways, not as kind of pleasingly.
Yeah,
but-
not as well.
No.
or
I mean,
good.
what it had was just kind of epic kind of narrative.
And there's that funny
there was
Jamaican
no
guy.
kind of there was no sort of.
One of my friend called it
You know, what's the crushing scene? Where they're in the kind
Trash
of. You know, there's no
compactor.
trash compactor scenes. There's not enough of that.
Right.
You know, the sort of in between bits, the comedy bits that maybe through kind of lack of funds, you necessarily your kind of your cloth is cut
Yeah.
to fit. When you can spend anything, you know, those kinds of moments, you're not forced to create those, and yet
Necessity
those
was
were
no
actually
longer
what
the
made
mother
the
of
classic
invention.
trilogy
Yeah,
great.
I
Exactly,
guess.
necessity is the mother of invention. So I think that maybe the kind of the first three either maybe suffered from that, but ultimately it's still epic.
But
The
the
sixth epic. I mean, it's an epic bit of
piece of
cinema.
shit.
I mean, it's
Epic,
It's
yeah,
not.
yeah.
It's not a piece
Epic
of shit.
shit.
It's-
Like
no,
one
it's
that
epic
comes
shit.
out of the bowl, comes
No,
out of the
it's not,
water
it's
and
not,
breaches
it's not.
and breaks. You show your friends, look at this shit. It just comes out. And it breaks and it breaks and
And it ruins all the other great
Yeah.
shit.
But I
you
think
do.
And it
if you
stains the
get-
bowl and
if
you
you're
watch
gonna
it all
ask a
day.
9-year-old boy, if you ask a 9-year-old boy, what do you prefer? Do you prefer Return of the Jedi or do you like, you know, Revenge of
Right.
the Sith? He will choose Revenge of the Sith.
Well, that's because he's an idiot.
Yeah, he's
no,
9.
it's because it's designed and made for his taste. It's got all the whole kind
He's
of
9
computer-
years old. What does he know?
We're smart.
You know, who's right, who's wrong? I don't know.
Not his.
I'm right, for
You're
sure.
right.
Now,
yeah,
can I
that's
just say, I did try and that very much in that bit when you slapped me there, and I put my tongue in my mouth. I was channeling John Cusack in Grosse Point Blank when Minnie Driver hits him, and he does that brilliant
that's
smile when he
beautiful.
puts his tongue in his mouth. Look how girly Pete is throwing here. Look,
Yeah, look-
what a whoopsie!
Is that how he really throws? Yeah.
I think so,
All right,
yeah.
I gotta give him
For a
shit about
big
that
man.
forever. He is a big dude.
He's
This is-
6'3", solid Pete.
Yeah.
I like this.
Oh my god, it's oh my god.
catering
student.
I like that
Particularly-
the fact that this pays off with the soup full of dope.
That kid's good. That little hawk-eyed.
Oh,
little
he's
bird.
great.
Yeah.
He's in
Really
quite a few
good.
films. He's in like
Lee Ingleby.
Master and Commander, and he's in some of the Harry Potter. Lee Ingleby. He's a great actor.
That's
the
Yeah,
best
he's
recognize
he's the one in Master and Commander who gets the hex and commits
Ah,
suicide.
yeah, yeah. That's good.
Yeah, he's great.
He
He's
was-
such an intense little actor.
He looks like young Terry Hall.
He looks exactly like Terry Hill from the specials. This
Here we are back at the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. This is really complex
I look
structure.
quite good
here.
running there, I think. I don't know,
think
just
your.
thought I'd draw attention
I'm
to that
sure I
bit.
said this before, but your get-up in this one is another classic Daisy outfit. You look like the coolest Doctor Who companion of all time.
Right, your
Like a
outfit.
70s
Yeah,
Doctor Who
the
companion.
Doctor Who companion.
No,
yeah.
but I mean that as a cool thing, like sort of like John
Never the
Pertwee
Doctor,
era.
always the companion. Oh, it hurts.
You have been a companion, haven't you? Or are you a companion in the show?
No, I'm not
I wonder
a
who
companion.
owns that car now. That
I
was my
marry
car.
him. He falls in love with me.
What is now? What about now? Can I go a little bit? Like, your get up,
Yeah.
that jacket. You wear that in like
the
other videos?
Maharishi. Yeah, Diablo brought that up. The fact that you actually that we actually wear the same clothes in different.
Yeah.
Like often. in
That's your favorite
sitcoms-
jacket.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Tim's favorite jacket, and he's got his favorite chocolate beanie hat, and it's
God,
kind
this
of.
is so good.
This was so
Well,
much
it was
fun
like
to do.
Everyone
It
was
was.
just saying, right, you do this, I'll do this, and you fall back. And we were all
Everyone's
kind of
got their own little
choreographed
play,
it, didn't we?
haven't
We
Yeah.
choreographed it
Yeah.
ourselves, didn't we?
It's brilliant.
It's like that. Everyone's got their little story. Like
Yeah.
Daisy's gun jams, and
Yeah.
I run out, and
Yeah.
Noodle gets all this shot around his head and stuff. And
But once
Now,
we
will
got
this
the-
and
work
then
if
he
I'm
runs
getting
out of
chased
bullets.
around?
Who-
yes,
If I'm getting chased around
I get a
Soho by a bunch of
machine
drunk
gun out the
fuckers,
back.
I
this
just think
will
sort of like
actually
your
work.
your bit here, Jessica, is like Warren Oates in the Wild Bunches. You have the machine gun, and then you get shot whilst you're on the machine gun and have your death.
I have
death spin.
Richters.
Ah, you have your death spin.
These are the kind of kids I'm afraid of in London.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
kids, because those are the ones that like they'll say something. This happened to me before. Say something, and then I'll go, "Oh, I don't know. I think it's over there." I'll say something really politely, and
Yeah.
they'll go,
What?
And it's just
What you
like
said?
hearing my voice. It's
Yeah.
like, the fuck is that? You know, it's, oh,
And you're like, don't
shit.
kill me.
That was
Please
kind of
don't
what.
kill
That's
me.
what the Kiora. That's what the Kiora moment in the bathroom is about. He sort of makes a joke. He goes, "What are you fucking saying?"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like that thing of like
Like, he doesn't
It's
get
just
it.
like kind of like those kind of thugs who are just antagonistic of like
Yep.
saying you sort of say
Whatever you say,
it's
like wrong.
What's the time? It's 9:30. What do you fucking say to me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's 9:30?
terrifying.
Yeah.
What are you
And to
saying? You're
have to-
telling me the
Women
fucking
really
time?
don't understand that there are guys like that.
Yeah.
in
Oh
the world.
yeah.
And they're like 15, and they'll. I got some kid
You
in
get
Scotland.
steamed.
Yeah, a 12-year-old
remember
kid in
though, I have to
Glasgow
say-
bumped me, and I
to
went,
say-
"Hey, careful!" He went, "You what?"
I remember once
Scared the
coming
shit out of me.
coming out of a gig with a friend of mine whose boyfriend at the time, this is a few years ago, his boyfriend at the time was in a band, and he was kind of going through that whole, I'm in a band now. He was getting very stressed about the fact that he was in a band, and he was doing quite well. And we kind of came out of the gig, and I'd bought the T-shirt for the band and everything. I was really kind of up and feeling a little bit high, I had a bag of chips, and some guy stole some chips off me, and we kind of got into a bit of a kind of like, why did you steal my chips? And it was slightly jokey, but it was also slightly like, I'm not going to back down, you're not going to back down. And we were kind of like facing off slightly, me to this guy, and my friend and her boyfriend got in the cab and just left me, just like he just ran away. And then I rang the next day and I said, what happened? And he was like, well, he just feels like, when there's a fight brewing, it's just that it's harder for guys because he's the one that's going to have to intervene, and he's the one that
He
might
might
get
have to
hurt.
save you.
He might get
We
hurt.
do
It's
done-
like,
we do-
what's that about?
But
It's just-
guys do tend to get their asses kicked
Coward.
when their girlfriends take on thugs.
Yeah.
They never really pay the price for
Yeah.
starting those fights.
Yeah, that's
Unless,
true.
You get particularly horrible people. who
That's
just
true. It's
fuck
very,
up
it's
anything.
very, very
Yeah.
important for a young man to know when other young man is mad.
Yes.
It's a very important skill to know.
Yes.
Laws of the jungle.
This is a very. This is a
In the
very.
wild, it comes down to muscle.
I think this is a very sweet scene on the doorstep.
This
Where they almost kiss?
Yeah, this
yeah,
is
this
another
is
near
a
kiss.
nice.
Look at their shining faces.
The almost kiss here.
Yeah.
Do they?
Yeah, this is like
They being you.
we sort of have that lingering look, and then Ada brings there's a nice little circularity in this episode with the key getting lost and then coming back to their door because Colin escaped, and he picks the key up and brings it back, and
That's right.
it's all very
But it's after hours, isn't it?
yeah. There was a bit of an Oz thing about it as well, wasn't there? There was a Wizard of Oz sort of kind of.
Yes, I
thing
never
with
got
the
the god
Oz
damn.
Hall
missing
in.
We'd
all
always
this
be
stuff.
like,
I just like the drug parts. Shit, missing all the underlying structure.
Come on,
the
little
funny thing is
thumb on
that
your shoulder.
this show always worked better on DVD because we
I
designed
thought
these
you were going
nice.
to say this show always works better on drugs.
No, but this show always worked better on DVD because like we'd always have these nice end sequences, and they'd always have the continuity announcer would go, and next up, Frasier.
Yeah, I know.
Like that, and you just like always like in the middle of the sequence, they're just like, shut the fuck up.
Put it up in the corner or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Because
Fucking
we used
hate
every
that.
fucking second that we could.
Right.
We actually bartered because the next episode has the Empire Strikes Back ending, and we sort of said that they could show trailers at the end of this one and the last one if they left the Empire Strikes Back one alone.
Yeah, yeah.
Was that music hard to clear in England?
Surprisingly not.
Weirdly not. And also
Was
not
it for here?
No, not that either. Strangely, we got that one cleared.
Look
It
at
was
Ada
really strange.
eating the soup.
I love this bit. This is such a nice, like, monged out moment.
This also suggests that Ada, in about 15 minutes, is going to be
Fucking so good.
Sorry, I just suddenly thought,
Very
does that imply that we're condoning
Yeah.
animal abuse?
Yes.
That definitely
Oh,
implies
God.
that. You're
Come on,
in big
Ada was the
trouble.
biggest
Never even
stoner of the
thought
lot
of
of us.
I love your end bit here. I like another one. And you loll over.
Hey! Thanks, America.